Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the Schmoes know, you are now a member of the Jedi Alliance. May the Force be with you, always.
Hello there, and welcome to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told. Lights have suddenly gone off in the studio, if you are listening on iTunes. I didn't know that was going to happen.
We're the freshest cantina in the galaxy now.
It was very exciting. I almost started dancing.
I plotzed.
I almost had a seizure.
Yeah, I was thrilled that I don't have epilepsy.
That's right.
It's a little side benefit of hosting. Quick epilepsy test. I am one of your hosts. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw. I don't have epilepsy. And our other host...
I don't have epilepsy either. My name is the Internet Soapbox Mark. You can find me on Twitter at Soapbox Mark. We're going to test that now. See, we're the hottest cantina in the... Can we just leave the Figure and Dan up for 10 hours? That'd be great.
It's great. Awesome. It is great music. The beat always drops. Not like that dubstep where they make you wait.
It's that little... So today we're going to be talking about mostly Claudia Gray's Lost Stars. We've all read the book here, and to be perfectly honest, I can't wait to start talking about it. But we've got some other stuff to do first, like introduce our wonderful guest.
Absolutely. Our guest is returning. He is one of our favorite guests. Ladies and gentlemen, John Rocha.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here, John.
Thank you for having me back. I always love it. It's the new setup, right?
Yeah. We're in our new studio. Yeah, we've been here for a few weeks. Yeah, we have we have strobe lights now.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I love it.
I think we have a disco ball, but I think we have to wait until the end of the show to find out.
Is there a Star Wars version of Dancing Queen?
Yes.
In Wookiee? That'd be great.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of 70s. Came out in the era of disco, so there are a lot of Star Wars horrors.
Yeah, that's true.
To be unearthed from the 70s. John.
Yes.
You do a lot.
I
want to see if you can list every podcast that you're on, so listeners who don't know can follow you.
Let me annoy the hell out of everyone. I do two podcasts over at Geek Nation.
Nice.
I do Far, Far Away, which is another Star Wars podcast. I host with Tiffany Smith, and then I do Cast of Characters, which is a voiceover animation podcast with Yuri Lowenthal. And then I host a Top 10 Show podcast with fellow stand-up comedian Matt Nost, and we count down the top 10 movies of whatever theme that we want that is going on currently. Like last week we did based on children's books because Pan came out.
Nice.
And then finally I just started on the Collider, the Flash after show, where you can see me just like this on camera with Dave Griffin, John Campea, and a fourth person we're going to be finding really soon. And we just talk about we watch the Flash and then we go right into the studio and talk about it.
Wow.
Interesting concept.
Yeah. I don't know where...
So, damn, man. Not only do you do all that, but you remembered it, added details that you didn't need to. I mean, they're great to hear, but you retained them all. No, I didn't mean it like that. I meant it like extra details, because normally when people are like, I do this show, I can't remember who it's with. Yeah. Like, man, it's very impressive.
Well, I'm just learning how to promote, I guess.
Learning. Please, growing up a wrestling fan, you know how to promote yourself.
That's true.
You're teaching others how to promote.
Yeah.
You're the uncle of promotion. So we normally ask people 5 questions. Sometimes if they've been on the show before, we ask them some other questions. John's been on the show a lot, so we want to just ask him one question. It's a question we've been asking guests a lot lately. I'm really, really curious about the response. I want to ask you your prediction for the domestic opening weekend box office of The Force Awakens.
Is there a number above $1 trillion? Because that's pretty much that's what I'm thinking. No, I really believe that it'll cross 600 million. I just have a feeling that it will destroy
opening
globally.
Globally, yeah, globally. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for the run. I don't know. I think. Yeah, what's the high? What was Jurassic World?
208 million.
So definitely it'll go more than that.
Yeah, and one of the things that are giving analysts pause, and everybody so far that we've asked thinks that it's going to do really well. And some people are like, how can you think that? You guys are making these wild predictions. And some of them, like $1 trillion or 500 billion, have been physically impossible. Fair enough. But another stat that comes up is that the biggest opening in December has been like 88 million.
Right.
So when we're saying like, it's going to beat Jurassic World, it's going to cross that 208 million opening weekend domestic. people are like, but nothing's done that. So what gives you the faith that it can cross 208 million and break a record?
Well, I just think it's a film that has such a long history in this country. You know, I mean, since the 70s. So we're talking multiple generations,
Right.
sometimes even 4 generations, depending on how your family rolls. But it could be just but it could be just 3 generations. And so, but like you've got grandfathers who were probably went to see New Hope in the theater,
Right.
You know, when they were much younger, and then so on grandmothers too. So you've got all this, and you've got cousins. Plus, it's coming out a week before Christmas.
Yeah.
So people will have time. Some people go home early who are in different places, and so they will go. I mean, that's one of the things that we always did when I went home to see my parents. Is we go right to the movie theater and watch something, and so even during Christmas.
Yeah.
So I just think releasing a week before Christmas is incredibly smart of them. Everybody will want to go see it. Now, if the buzz from the screenings, like people who get to the early screenings, the buzz is great, even more so.
Yeah.
I think it'll blow up like crazy. Plus, you've got now IMAX. You've got, and just like Matrix did, they could go 24/7. Like Matrix, a lot of people don't remember, but the Matrix Revolutions and the third one, I forget the name of it offhand, Reloaded. The second one, Reloaded
Right.
and Revolutions.
Yeah.
They were like 24/7 in the theater. I remember going to see it at 5 a.m. at the Man's Chinese Theater.
Okay.
I remember doing that. So it's possible for this movie.
Cool.
I agree.
Cool.
That's
Great.
my sorry, very long-winded
No,
answer.
No, a thorough answer
Yeah,
is
well.
is great. Cool.
Yeah,
So,
having everybody home, I think is a great way to put it as well.
yeah, the mix of family and obsessive fans like us who will go
Yeah.
multiple times,
Yeah.
I think is going to be something that's hard to compete with.
Well, my friend Scott Mendelson, who works at Forbes, we used to work together a long time ago back in Burbank, and he now does the box office predictions. He thinks it's going to be somewhere between the astronomical and the low end, but I just have a feeling that it's going to blow. But people have been waiting for it.
Yeah.
It's either going to be people really liking it or people who don't think they're going to like it.
Yeah.
That'll be like, let's see why I won't like this. Because
Right.
either way, somebody's going to buy a ticket and do it. I don't
Yeah.
even think piracy is going to be an issue with this movie.
No.
As it is for some big movies.
Yeah, I think it just needs to cross in the first half of the weekend that sort of like, you got to see it, everyone's going to be talking about it, and then just the normal human beings. I'm so
Yeah.
immersed in geek world that I forget there are normal human beings like, I think I
Somewhere
know
out
what a
there.
lightsaber is. Like, those people will go.
Yeah.
I think I know what a lightsaber is people will go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the obsessives too, because this is one of those very, very rare properties where you will catch multiple things on many viewings, like stuff that you wouldn't catch the first 2 or 3 times around. Sometimes
Right.
you'll catch that, and so I think this is one of those few properties that has both the creators and the audience involved in this. Can you find this? Can you find this? Will they find this?
Yeah.
If I put it here or whatever, you know, just that little 360 of Jakku that came out a couple of weeks ago. People were like, "What is this? What's
Right,
this?
they'll
What
get
is
the
this?"
Easter egg bump as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Cool.
Totally agree. And with that, we will go to news from the HoloNet. First off, we got a bit of a report and kind of a confirmation from our wonderful friends at Schmoes Know that the new trailer, the only trailer for The Force Awakens, will be released on October 19th, this coming Monday. What do you guys want to see in the trailer?
Yeah, I want to see just the hint of the big 3 at the end. That's all the more I want.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit about sort of thematically what's at stake in the movie, but as few plot details as possible. Like a hint of sort of Luke's perspective would be great.
Yeah.
That's all. But just a hint.
Because we got a reveal of Han and Chewie already. We haven't necessarily had a reveal of Luke or Leia yet.
Yeah, we've seen Leia in the behind the scenes footage.
Yeah,
but
just
not
in the behind the scenes
narratively.
footage, but
Yeah.
exactly. So with that, still keep it in Act 1. Maybe expand a couple of the shots that we've seen, but I don't think we'll see too much more.
Yeah.
Let alone all 3 of them together on screen at the same
Yeah,
time. Or
yeah,
4.
and there's I also think there's room a little bit to see a little bit more of the villains. Like we've seen a lot of Kylo Ren, but maybe
Nux.
a line from General Hux demanding something or whatever.
Yeah.
How about you, John?
Oh yeah, I would say that I just would like to see like a hint of the story. Just let me see, because none of the teasers have really given us much of the story, and sometimes we're reading these rumors, we can get caught up thinking we know what the story is, but we don't know just yet.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of an outline would be great. I mean, I'm already going, so I don't need much.
Yeah.
But I would love a Luke and Leia shot. And I would love just a little clip of a banter between Han and Leia that really would make us all feel just as good as the Chewie Han.
Yeah, no,
did.
that's true, because I think they pulled these sort of great emotional strings of this is the saga of the Skywalkers
Right.
in the last trailer we got
Yeah.
of The Force Runs Strong in My Family. Now get to see a little bit of that flip side of the banter
Yeah.
and the witty and the scoundrel.
Which is what we love about Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Which is what I felt. Well, I don't want to say anything too negative, but we felt was missing from the prequels a little bit. I felt
Some of us felt were missing from the prequels.
Yes. But I felt the banter in if we're going back to old school Star Wars, then that needs to be there, and we need to see it even better because Harrison Ford is even more crotchety as Han Solo. I'm sure as he's older, and Leia's even more rigid as she's gotten
I would
older,
be
too.
thrilled if it was 3 minutes of Han just complaining about something. I'd still go to the movie.
I can't believe that. Yeah, I agree.
Damn Jawa, something like that.
Cool.
It's like, Han, you can't say that. That's not okay.
That's what Chewie's always roaring. Come on, Han.
Dude,
Really?
you can't say that.
Yeah.
Half of Chewie's lines are really, Han? Really?
And maybe just a little bit of like the settings and the ships. Possibly just some glimpse of some new ships or new vehicles that might be in the
I'd
movie.
like to see the armada that either side is rolling
Oh
with.
yeah.
Yeah. We've certainly seen Millennium Falcon zipping around, but maybe a little bit more of the sense of space battle.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, Battlefront released a beta, right?
Yes, it did.
And Mark Donica, you played it, correct?
I believe the both of us played it.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so I have been chastised. My very first appearance on the show, I said I was looking forward to Disney Infinity a little bit more than I was to Battlefront because of the experience I had at E3. This fixed a lot of that because I wasn't waiting in line for 4 hours. I wasn't like I better play this game. This was all.
So you're saying it's a better game if you're not grumpy or hungry?
Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. And not in line with smelly people. But I ultimately, this is a Star Wars experience that I don't think anybody should pass up. Whether you're a fan of video games or not, what did you think?
Absolutely. I loved it. And I'm not a gamer. Like, I will admit that freely. You shoot me if you want. I'm just not a gamer. I'm at that age where, to me, it's like there's a lot of other stuff going on where it's like, to me, to find time to game is really tough.
Yeah.
Especially with all the stuff I'm trying to get off the ground now.
Absolutely.
But, like, but I took some time on Sunday. I took about 2 or 3 hours and played it. I love it. It's if you're not a gamer, it's a little more difficult to get, and you can get a bit impatient because like your lives go quickly, and
Yes, they
do.
the ad comes out of nowhere, or that the smaller walker comes
AT-ST.
out. Yeah, the AT-ST comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, how am I going to shoot this thing? But it's good because it forces you to kind of use the terrain to your advantage, use what you're doing to, and then
Cool.
you start to understand where you're going, and you get it quicker, and then you get to whole other things, and so to me it was a blast to play for the 2 or 3 hours that I played. I had a great time, and so the whole reason I bought a PS4 was to play Battlefront for hours on end when it came out. Yeah, FIFA's usually my game, but I've been waiting for Battlefront for quite some time.
Did you just play the Walker Assault mode, or did you play the other one?
I didn't know there was another one.
There was. There's a.
Fuck right, everything kept saying. Oh,
So where was the
not on
Walker
beta.
assault mode set? What was the terrain?
Just Hoth.
Great.
Um,
and what was the
Wait,
other?
you could play on Hoth?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play tonight because I couldn't get
Yeah,
out
it
of
ends
Tatooine.
tonight.
I
Okay.
could not get out of Tatooine.
Yeah,
It was driving me
so
insane.
that was the one that you played. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was a sort of a point capture mode where you had to get fallen escape pods
Right.
and defend that point. You could either be on the Empire or the Rebel side. You got different power ups like
energy charge. and all that,
there's also aerial strikes.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get weapon or vehicle power ups depending on what side you're on.
Were there difficult spawns you were saying? Like you
Oh,
just
yeah.
pop up in front of Vader and he just cuts your head off?
So in the Walker Assault mode, or in both, really, you can spawn on a partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so but you don't know where your partner is.
Did you say spawn on a partner?
Yeah.
Like you.
That's the term, Joseph.
Yeah, but no, I didn't mean it like that. But like, is it like you're right next to them?
Right behind
or
them.
Right behind them.
Right
Okay.
behind them, but
still
you don't know where-
dangerous.
That's the thing is you don't know
in
where
any
they are.
galaxy.
I would blast people in the head because I just start squeezing before I spawn, just in case.
You just apparate and you're just firing wildly in the air. But you don't unless you cycle through. You can watch and see where different members of your team are. But it's 20 on 20, so it might take a while for you to
cool.
find your partner.
Right.
So just to get back to the battle, you go okay, spawn on partner, and then all of a sudden you see Luke Skywalker coming at you like, well, no, backing up. But for the Walker Assault mode, definitely got to play. It's the Battle of Hoth. If you're the rebels, you're trying to stop the AT-ATs. You have to capture these points that unlock Y-wing bombings on the AT-ATs, and the more bombings you get, the longer time they're vulnerable to regular blaster fire.
Nice. So it sounds like there's a lot of like thought out mechanics. It's not just a run around, point and shoot.
Yeah, there are, but you'll find in the Walker Assault mode that it is a little bit. it's hard to win as the rebels. It's really hard.
well.
So you'll see why they had to escape the planet in the film. But I rarely one as the rebels, but as the Empire, it's kind of more fun because you have all of that power. You get a sense of that power.
Sure, yeah, that's a great video game balance when you can play it for just the fun of crushing non-real people, and then hey, I want to challenge, I want to prove I can do something,
Right?
Or I just want the glory of stomping
But
on
that's
people.
the thing is, as the Empire, you really feel, yes, that is the might of the Empire for the Emperor, all that crap. And then when you win as the rebels, it's like, good, we're taking them down a peg. I felt myself more embodied on either side as I was playing it than I did during the beta, thank goodness. But you get a lot of vehicle spawns. You get a chance to be at the helm of the AT-AT, firing at all of the teeny little rebels, trying to like, no,
Awesome.
And you can pilot ships. You can either get in an A-wing or an X-wing on the rebel side, and a TIE fighter or a TIE interceptor on the Empirical side. And both as I complained in the last one, they do give you more time to figure out the controls before you just crash into, which a lot of people end up doing, is just like, well, I can't, all right, and then you just crash and right into the battlefield. But sometimes if they don't spawn, if the other team doesn't spawn a fighter, you're just kind of flying around like, let me see if I can shoot anybody, but then you go too low to the ground. Overall, this is a Star Wars experience that no fan should miss. November 17th is the day that it comes out. There's a fun swill where anytime one side would gain an advantage, they would play the and you're like, we're doing something. Something heroic is happening. Thank goodness.
Excellent. Well, November 17th is my wedding anniversary, so
There we go.
my wife, if you're watching,
You can get the Darth Vader PS4, the special edition PS4. There you go.
we will spawn together as wedded partners.
Beautiful.
And it will be wonderful.
Whoa.
A little too close there.
Have I spoke about my anger on this PS4 that's coming out with Vader? I
Your
probably
anger?
haven't on the show, but yeah, I was at D23 when they
Your dark
announced it.
side?
Me too.
Yeah, my anger. Because I bought the PS4 because they had a deal at the time that you could trade in your old PS3 for $150 off a PS4. So I was like, I just came back from Comic-Con. I went right into the EB and did it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea they were going to come out with a Darth Vader one.
Oh,
There was a
right,
rumor
okay.
for a long time.
mad.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
I'm gonna sell mine.
I might sell mine
Yeah.
to get the new one because it's so cool.
That looks so awesome.
And there's a special edition one that comes with a whole bunch of older Star Wars games
they
too.
announced
So
there,
it's
yeah.
like why you do this?
I almost stormed out. Of the
Well, we'll talk
convention.
more about Battlefront when it comes out on November 17th, and I will give up many hours, days, weeks of my life, possibly, because once I start, I can't stop. But should we move on to our last bit of news?
We
the
should.
holiday?
We got technically 3 new novels announced from Del Rey. We've got not necessarily a sequel, but we got from Claudia Gray, a New Republic Bloodline. We don't know if it's a continuation of Lost Stars.
She actually
yet.
confirmed
Did she?
via Twitter on her own tweet account that it is not a sequel to Lost Stars.
You know what? That's fine. If it's something about what is it anything about these characters like maybe
I
Nash?
don't think so. Nothing that I've heard. She said quite clearly on her Twitter that it is not a sequel. It is new characters. It's set really close to The Force Awakens, so I think it's just a great writer dealing with a different part of the universe.
That's fine.
And a different publisher.
That's fine. And then from a continuation of the Aftermath series, we have Aftermath Life Debt, which is coming out in 2016, and Aftermath Empire's End coming out in 2017. Is there any character? I mean, Life Debt is kind of clear, but what
could be a psych out, but
could,
yes. But Life Debt suggests Han Chewie relationship.
There was that interlude in Aftermath that I was most interested about them going back to Kashyyyk and handling an uprising and the Wookiee coming back from the brink of slavery, which I hope that this book is about. But is there any character era that you guys want to see?
Joseph, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested. They're doing such a great job, and I think we'll talk about this more when we talk about Lost Stars. Such a great job of filling out the whole story of everything we've seen, really connecting the prequel era to the classic trilogy era to now the new trilogy era. And I'm curious to see what they do with the Old Republic.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see them kind of touch on that.
Yeah, to go backwards all the way back. Yeah, that would be fun to see them explore that as well. To me, those missing years to up to Force Awakens, no matter how much comes out on it already, I'm still want to see more.
Yeah.
And what they're able to do to go back, like, and when we get into Lost Stars, I'm sure we'll talk about what they're able to flesh out in Lost Stars is a good example of what they could possibly do with these 30. There's so much to fill in. There's so much to explore. That those are the things that I'm focused on more than anything else. Is that time? It's almost like what the Jesus Christ years were like. Oh, he disappeared, and all of a sudden he's back, and he's the Messiah at 31. And you're like, hey, what happened all this time? It's lost time. It's like, hey, we can fill in whatever.
Did you train any Jedi, Jesus?
Yeah, Jesus.
We really want to know. How about you, Mark? Is there
Jedi's for Jesus? It's possible.
Well, now that's what Life Dead is about. Christ. I mean, Chewie and Han, that whole interlude made me go, I want a book about this right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I want to see. I definitely how they ended the last chapter of this definitely made me go, oh, we could see
Of
something.
Lost Stars?
Yeah, we could see something with Nash. But the fact that it's called Bloodline and New Republic, I hope maybe it's something about the
over
Kylo Ren.
Claudia Gray's book? Yeah.
Over Claudia Gray's book. Maybe it's something about the Poe Dameron. Maybe it's about a title character in the new movies, and where we might see somebody like change, and we can figure out the reason why. We'll get a backstory of these characters that we may know nothing about by the time Force Awakens is over. So that's what I want. I am interested to see where the characters from Aftermath go from here. They did end it on an interesting note. I fell kind of in love with Sinjir, and I really hope that he pops back up in a better capacity, and something that we can get a nod to in the movies, sort of like how we discussed during the last book thing. Is
awesome.
Something that just kind of informs our viewings.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about books, we will dive into our main topic today, and that is Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. It is a wonderful book. It even feels good in your hands.
It does.
Which is it's just kind of a joke, but it's true.
It's got a great weight to it.
It has a great weight to
Probably
it.
knock somebody
for
out
sure.
with it.
So, I think for the most part, people have read Lost Stars. If you haven't read Lost Stars, we're going to try to keep our conversation kind of spoiler light to the best of our ability. But we certainly... I said try and light. We'll try for light. We'll probably do some spoilers. So if you haven't read the book and you just don't want anything spoiled, maybe stop now and finish the book as fast as you can, because it's great.
Yeah.
And then join us and watch the rest of the episode. I think the book was fascinating in many ways, partially because the book itself is kind of an underdog story, where it is sort of Star Wars. To me, it was like Star Wars meets Forrest Gump meets Harry Potter, but good.
Ooh,
like if you had described it
You're
that way
saying
to
that
people,
wouldn't be amazing?
it has some risk to it, and I think that's what the sort of underdog story of the book itself is that people had a lot to fear in a YA novel about Star Wars. And the fact that it was amazing is a really, really cool part of just the overall story, a meta story of the book. But what was your general reaction to it, John?
I mean, it was like, it was pretty much like...
Sorry to our audio listeners, but you need to tune in for that one.
Yeah, I loved it. I really did. I did not... And I'd heard from a number of people. Obviously, Christian Harloff's been pushing the book really hard on the shows, and he's been talking about it like for weeks. And I was like, oh... But then I saw it. It was like $10 at Costco. And I was like, I'll buy it. What's $10? And it was fantastic. It's so engrossing. The characters are fun to watch on their progression. And the breadth of the book, like how far into the histories they go, how many years they cover, and all the events, and the way they cover the events and insert Thane and Sienna into the events is so intelligent and. Like for a geek who loves Star Wars, like it's exciting because you're like, this is smart.
Yeah,
this is a smart way to insert them. You don't do. It's almost like what you saw in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the third one, where Hitler turns around and Harrison Ford's right there to get him to sign the book. Like it's that kind of stuff that works and it's quick and it's out. You know, and I liked I liked the way they weaved him in. It was very believable.
Yeah. I think it didn't insult the reader at all. Some of the really great, mind-blowing things. I loved how the characters didn't know that what they were saying was significant. It was sort of like a punch in the gut to the reader when you realize what they're referring to. It sort of strangely reminds me of a lot of the advice that you get as a stand-up comedian, that you try to be as specific as possible about your truth, and that actually opens it up to being more universal. So if you're telling people this is what my life experience has been, it's really unique and specific, but then through that specificity, you get a more universal picture. And that's exactly what this book is doing, is by following these two people through this story that we know really well.
Yeah.
It enhances our own understanding of the big picture story.
And then it makes you look at some of these battles. It makes you look at the Battle of Yavin and go, that's Thane's X-Wing right there.
Right.
You know, and it makes you look at the I watched the Force Awakens trailer again, and seeing the Fallen Death Star, just the cover is kind of indicative, and they say early on that sort of sets up a situation, and that lingers in the back of your mind, and that anticipation, despite all of the interaction with the history that we know, hearing something about the future and hearing that teased, as well as the future of these characters, that kept me kind of on the edge of my seat. And as much as I wanted to quickly read to get to the end, I wanted to slow down and make sure I got every word.
Yeah.
Flippin' love this book.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was really cool about it is the amount of time that it spends talking about violence and the repercussions of violence. Certainly the idea that the rebels have certainly taken plenty of lives, and the book, in true sort of YA form, is not shy about going to some dark places, spending a lot of time talking about how good people died on the Death Star, just humans who just like, hey, I really believe the Empire's doing some great stuff. It seemed to just really drive home this idea that of the war part of Star Wars. And it almost seemed like sort of that's been said about Rogue One, but it almost seemed like this is a direction we're going with the whole Star Wars universe, where we're really, it's not going to be just good and evil. We're really going to take responsibility for, like, when a life is gone, it's a life.
And you got to see it from several sides. When you saw the destruction of Alderaan, you saw somebody from Alderaan react. You got to see both sides kind of think the same thing, where that's a reprehensible act, and then where they go from there, where they go, well, that's just a part of war. Well, they just killed us back, just as many people. Like, a lot of good people died on that day, no matter what side you were on. And having people in there, like, next time I watch New Hope, I'll be like, flipping Jude was on that Death Star, dude. She was just a science brat. Like, come on. So it helped you feel a little bit more for both sides, that it's not just good and evil, it's not just heroes and villains, and I like it.
Yeah, did you enjoy that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as wrestling fans, as Mark and I are, we know, like, from the old days in the 80s, it was good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, and then as things went in the 90s, Attitude Era, all that, it became more about exploring the levels of good, the levels of bad, and what the exchanges are. And I think what you saw here is very similar with what happened in Alderaan. Is very similar to dropping the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki for this country. Like, if we drop the bomb now on a country to end a war, there would be massive protests in the street about the innocent lives that died, during that time. There wasn't that much of that when it was back in the 40s, but I think nowadays we would, and I think that's what's so great about an author who understands what is going on in the society as a whole, and tailors the book to fit that, which is more of a fleshing out of both sides and the levels within both sides of how you can be good and how you can do evil things and still be essentially on the good side, but also how someone on the bad side supposedly can see what you're doing and see that's why they're evil. That's why they're evil. I mean, the Alderaan thing, it was almost, they pitched it as a necessary evil, where other people saw it as you destroyed an entire planet to show your might. You know? So that's a way, two perspectives.
And that's a great sort of segue to another idea I wanted to talk about. With the real world example of Hiroshima, it was different because we didn't have the amount of communication. Like with social media,
of course,
we have a right. And the book, I think, without, like, it's not making social media jokes. Right? It's not like a Twitter joke in here. But it does play on what communication is available to these characters, to this society, to allow those kind of ideas to grow and not be challenged. And that was one of the things I loved, is seeing exactly how the propaganda and the manipulation of the Empire works.
Especially on the when Thane and Sienna first meet, and they bump into Grand Moff Tarkin.
Out of
Like,
nowhere.
I was just like, what's about to happen? And then it's like, oh, he's kind of a nice old man. That's a thing to do.
He's
oh,
a
wait,
charming
nope.
gentleman. Yeah.
There's like, see, you start him young, and that's how you
Yeah.
get him for life. And we find out that that's entirely true. And all of the propaganda that they see on both sides, like Thane acknowledges that the Rebel Alliance and the New Republic, they do have some level of propaganda, but he tends to believe it a little bit more the closer to the end of the book you get.
Yeah.
It's an interesting exploration too. If you look at the backgrounds of both Thane and Sienna in the book, right? I mean, Thane comes from a more established background, and more so. Sienna comes from more, if I'm correct, Sienna comes from the more like, you know, the second waivers or whatever the generation.
the other,
swap.
yeah,
Oh, I mean,
yeah. So she's the Valley people.
Yeah, she's
yeah.
Valley people.
She's
So-
rural versus city.
Right, and the city with Thane, it's that kind of thing. Like, but he's got that luxury to be able to question authority, right? But with Sienna and with the Valley people, it's more like, okay, we're just trying to establish an order. This is the way it's always been.
Yeah.
You know, it's like old school stuff. You know, my daddy says it's right. It's right. You know, you've got to get that feeling, and then that's what is always inherent as they grow. It never stops. You know, he's always questioning things. He's always wanting to find out. It doesn't mean Sienna's not. Sienna, in her own way, is intelligent, but she just takes a little bit longer because her ingrained need to follow orders is more difficult to shake
And
than Thane's.
her honor and
Yeah,
her family's
all
honor.
of that.
Yeah,
And
and it was
there's
really
some
cool to
respect
see
there.
the room to explore that, because I do think that's an idea that Lucas has always had. He certainly talks about when I'm designing a planet and who lives there, that in how they physically live, that determines who they are and what they believe.
Yeah.
And like we get to see that with Luke, because we spent so much time on Tatooine and what a boring sort of farmer's life is.
Right.
You know, but then we're seeing so many worlds in like the prequels, we don't get time to spend with them. And this is such a great exploration of that idea of like everything about them comes from not only their family experience, but the experience of their specific culture in that specific planet.
And we get to check in on Jalukin several times throughout the book in its de-evolution from pure planet, pure Outer Rim planet, to straight up 100% seedy Empire-controlled planet.
Some of my other favorite details is, like, I loved when he met Grand Moff Tarkin, and he did seem like, oh, he's kind of a charming old man, and maybe nice in his own way.
Exactly.
And then I love when she starts to see Vader and Emperor, that they're just like, you can't hide that evil.
No.
Which is something I've always wondered about, you know, especially back in the day before the prequels, of like, how did everybody just know that he was a cackling maniac in a hood?
No. And hearing about the holovids where they presented him more like Sheev than they did like Emperor Palpatine that we know. That when we saw him, or when we read him coming out of the shuttle, it's just like, yeah, no, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and the same with Vader, that, like, I like the idea of that, even though these characters aren't explicitly Force sensitive by any means, that you just know that's an evil man has to live in that armor. That can't be a nice guy with a kind of evil suit.
But they still curry favor with him, right? They're still trying to curry favor with him through the book, and you see that. But that's the power. That's the power, you know. And the establishment, like you said, the establishment of the loyalty, all of that. She gravitates to all of that because because that's just how she's built, right?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating because then that's also the way she moves up in the rankings and gets to where she gets to where she is actually currying. That Vader is showing favor towards her, but you know, because of her loyalty, and even though she's beginning to slowly question how the Empire
it's the
is
order
built.
and the loyalty that's keeping her in the system and keeping her from speaking her mind, but she's still, it's like this is what I signed up for. That's who I gave my oath to. I got to do it. There's no way, especially when she gets assigned her own ship. It's like, I can't now. I definitely can't desert now.
I wanted to talk a little bit about that theme of order, because that's actually, it's a big deal in Lost Stars. But I just read Lords of the Sith, also in the new canon, and spends a lot of time on Vader's perspective of that's how he doesn't justify the dark side. He believes in the dark side, but he believes in the Empire is they just need order. And the Jedi Order kind of squeezed people in a certain way. But it didn't function well to actually get people in line and get things working well. So all of these new canon books that I've read so far have a real theme of somebody needs to control the galaxy. There must be order. So to me, it made me start to think that I wonder if that's where the new movies in the story of Star Wars is going, away from a story of good and evil to a story of like order versus chaos, or how do you find
the first order?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If trying to find that balance between order and chaos, and if you have order, how do you keep it locked down?
But one person's order is another person's chaos, right? And I think that's what you keep seeing through this book, and through the best ones of this media that is starting to come out. I think that's what I'm enjoying. The best ones explore that possibility of both sides being right at the same time, or both sides being wrong at the same time, depending on perspective. And I think that's so important, because we as a society have progressed as moviegoers, as consumers of media, to accept that kind of thing. And what we're seeing, and obviously I'm no expert, I don't have a PhD in international relations or anything, but what we're seeing with the happening in Iraq is the same thing. Like, a lot of people are starting to come out and say we shouldn't have taken Saddam out, because Saddam had at least had some semblance of order, even though he was an evil person. He had some semblance of order in that country, and now it's chaos, where everybody is fighting for control or pieces of the place. And you see that in the book as well later on, during those years after Jedi, where we see those factions coming in and wanting to take control, and how that affects the planets and the systems and all that jazz. And I think that's what's really fun to explore, and is well done. Claudia does a really, really well job, and really good job in the book of doing that.
Yeah, and I just read Aftermath as well, and I feel like that's one of the strengths of Aftermath. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I think one of the strengths of it is showing what a vast mess the universe is.
Why wouldn't it be? I mean, regardless of your species, you're still like, you have an idea of what, if you want to, I know it's a Star Wars show, but if you want to say Star Trek, even in Star Trek, there was all kinds of problems, even though there supposedly was a Federation that controlled everything.
And treaties and Cardassians,
right,
and all
exactly.
that.
So that's going to happen here too. Why not? We're all built a certain way, even though we're all humans. I mean, even though it's a bunch of species, it's humans that are writing these books. Humans that are essentially the central part of this media, and so logically they're going to have pitfalls. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to mess things up.
Yeah,
and even seeing from the Clone Wars TV show establishes that different sides were like aiming for control. It's a Jedi controlled planet. It's a Republic controlled planet, and a Trade Federation
separatist.
Thank you. Controlled planet, and even that only being like 60 years ago. So there's still probably planets who are like, so how's this Clone War going? You know, like and still in not even having total control from that.
Yeah.
To like just starting to get treaties and things signed to be like, okay, cool. Now that everybody's on, okay, what are these Star Destroyers doing in the day? I thought those were the good guys. So now you have planets just coming out of it being thrown back in it. It's just different levels of war at different times.
And some characters, I read Lost Stars and Aftermath together, so some of those bigger picture things are blending together, so I can't remember which book, but people talk about like, well, it's just war and then a little bit of time off. That's all.
Right.
Which suddenly makes what used to sound like Star Wars, cool. That sounds like a first draft title, and we stuck with it because it's just they're fighting in space. It's better than space fights. It's Star Wars, but now it's starting to resonate. Of like, is that the story of this galaxy the wars just can't end, and everybody is trying to end them. And for our entertainment, they're never going to end.
Certain point of view.
They just take a break. Another thing that I thought was really interesting in the book that was done elegantly, in my opinion, compared to some of the other books, is it expanded a lot of the sort of basic sort of human things that we have to have, like entertainment and alcohol and just bodily function control, and made elegant Star Wars sounding inventions for them.
Beard suppressant. That was like, oh, well, I mean, we don't see stormtroopers' faces too often, but there's got to be military regulation of that. Do they have like tiny lightsabers, or do they just shave like a little thing? Like, no, there's got to be something. And the fact that they added supplements for nutrition, and it was mostly liquids, and everybody had to be regulation a certain size. That totally, it was just one of those. Yeah,
makes sense.
That makes sense.
And there's some jet juice that is cooked off of the engines, which is like, that's great. And also a lot of different hollow things, hollow vids, hollow messages, hollow novels, all of which suggesting that there is a rich world of sort of meta entertainment in Star Wars. Are there other, since the books are doing a good job, and Lost Stars in particular, of introducing that real world stuff while still making it feel a part of the Star Wars universe, is there other real world stuff that you guys want to see pop up in books and movies?
I mean, something just to make it a little bit more relatable. I would just want to see a little bit more into the like we did, what what off time is like. You know, like we heard about the grav ball. Or what's grav ball? Like we have an idea. It could be baseball, dodgeball, whatever. But just a little bit more of that. Making these real people, making the rebels real people, making every individual stormtrooper or TIE fighter pilot real people. What do they do?
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to see?
No. I think what you were saying is right. For me, the sports. Like,
you want more
of that? Yeah, I mean,
I was going to ask you specifically about that.
There's got to be something of that in there, right? And they wouldn't just stop it because, like you said, it's always war constantly. So they would have to find a way for entertainment. You could not consistently live in a world where it's war all the time. You would go insane.
And historically, some of the big sort of changes in entertainment have happened, at least like in the last 100 and 200 years in America, are reactions to war of like, we need entertainment. We need something to take our mind and something to remind us what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
Well, even in the book, they mentioned pod racing.
Yeah.
So and pod racing was one of the few things that people universally said that was awesome, that was cool, because you got to see a not war thing that a lot of people gather at.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh hey, we're mourning these dead, or oh hey, we're assembling because here's this big general coming. It's we're assembling to try to enjoy ourselves. More of that, I think, could flesh out why do they want to protect this universe other than the fact that these guys are evil. Let's see more of this universe and what makes it good and why good people want to defend it.
I selfishly am terrified of this, but I want to see stand-up comedy. Music is well established in the Star Wars universe. It would take a great artist to make stand-up comedy come off well.
Awesome.
I want it to be at Jabba's Club, so you can hear Jabba laughing in the background. Good one.
Although you'd really be taking your life in your hands, would you? You would stand up.
I think that's probably the way I'd like to see it. Is like,
you stand over the Sarlacc pit with a microphone.
Actual funny or die in Star Wars. Actual funny or die.
Well, with the cantina, that's famous for a reason. It stands out in a world
the famous
like that.
cantina. I have found in reading the new canon books that a lot of them move faster, have more action, are more cinematic. I liked a lot of the old books that are legends now, but a lot of them moved like science fiction novels. But these books seem to be moving more like movies. Do you guys like that? Do you want them to slow down?
Well,
do you disagree?
For Aftermath, it was a little too cinematic in the way that it quickly cut from things.
Right. Yeah, glossed over things.
Yeah, this we had, it was established early on. We have two main characters, and you got to see in the same scene what both of them were thinking, or you got to see their reaction to the same thing from different sides, like the second Death Star exploding, and Sienna getting flippin' gored. But that made it a lot easier to follow, as opposed to Aftermath, where it made it a little bit harder to follow.
Cool.
But I would want to see this as a film, to be honest, or several films.
Do you like the sort of more cinematic take? Have you read? I know you read Aftermath. Have you read anything else in the new canon yet?
Yeah, I read Lords of the Sith. I read Heir of the Jedi, but like this, I loved the facility with which they did that cinematic approach, because it was more in-depth, it was smarter, and it moved naturally into the events that it was covering and naturally out of the events it was covering.
Yeah, that's what I was
very
just
organic.
thinking. Chapter ends almost felt like they had a wipe.
Yep.
Like
it
the
was just
Star Wars
like the
wipe.
old school,
because,
right.
Because it's not... it was edited well in terms of this is exactly where this part of the story ends that makes you really want to turn the page and say, I need to know what happens next.
Right.
Like, yes, I enjoyed reading about Beard Suppressant and Grand Moff Tarkin, but I want to know in that good storytelling way what happens next.
And having the events that we know being the frame for the majority of this book helped you visualize it a little bit more. Yeah. Because you know the bridge of the Death Star. You know the cockpit of an X-Wing.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're releasing it for... people don't read books like they used to anymore. It's all just big bookstores now. Not a lot of mom and pop bookstores, and it's because people don't read them much anymore, or they read stuff online, or they read stuff on the Kindle. So you have to make it for the society nowadays, the kids nowadays. And kids nowadays, everything is fast, it's quick. So it makes sense, if you're going to make something really good, you got to find a way, you got to find that middle ground where it's like, I'm going to make the quick moves that the kids like, but I'm also going to throw in a lot of information that works within those quick moves so that they understand what's going on at a deeper level.
Yeah, quick investment, quick hook, and then I care about these characters and I can be pulled along.
Exactly.
Cool. Did you guys enjoy looking for Force Awakens clues, or were you so wrapped up in in the actual great storytelling that you weren't like, Zatooine, is that a thing? You know?
Yeah, no, that was great to see, right? And then when they got to the Battle of Jakku, especially, I was like, oh, hey, here we go.
Yeah.
This is all new stuff.
I knew that the Battle of Jakku was essentially what the cover was. Going
the
into
story
it,
going
so
down,
I was just like, okay, cool. It will be a little bit weird in Battlefront when you pre-order the game. They're releasing the Battle of Jakku as a free download, so
Oh,
it'll be
cool.
weird
Oh, wow.
being
Okay.
in that and seeing stuff happen and be like, huh, no,
I
don't.
wanted to react to that. Yeah.
Exactly. It makes it a lot more emotionally charged. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and then depending on if anything near the end of this book, if we see a prison in the background of whatever New Republic thing,
yeah.
and be
Right,
like, and
right.
see like a dude in an X-wing thing walking out, just like, is that thing? Is that supposed to be thing? Like, I'm more about the other part. I'm excited to try to find these characters in Force Awakens
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
Interesting.
That was so fun. But like Thane having the dance with Leia, I mean, that
Yeah.
was great. And dragging Leia's ship with the tractor beam. Like
Yeah.
all those things are really great to have them slide in and do that kind of stuff. And that was more fun for me.
Yeah.
Being such a fan of the old school trilogy to watch and
Yeah,
explore.
and I'll say as a prequel fan, if you
Yeah.
like the prequels, there are a couple of really, really great bits of information of what happened to some of the things and people that we spent a lot of time with.
Agreed.
Very,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
side.
I liked
yeah.
that it ended right or the book starts right around the time where the Clone Wars have just kind of ended. and
Yeah, there's still
everything
very
in-
much a presence in people's life, but
Exactly.
it's generational and all that.
It's a like you had mentioned, connecting 1, 2, and 3 to 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Like, here's you don't need to know about this part. You already know about this part, so we're just going to use people to get you from one end to the other.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
yeah.
she was surprised at how the Emperor looked when she finally saw him. Like she was like, "Wait a minute, that's not the Clone Wars Emperor that
Yeah.
I remember. What's
That
this
is
thing?"
an evil old man. Like, yes, he is.
Who
Yeah.
wears robes anymore?
Right.
It's just a robe. You know how hot it is?
Well, we don't know that it's just. Well,
That's true.
Anyway,
They
we'll
all-
do a whole episode on that. Under the Emperor's robes. The last
my
question
God.
I wanted to ask is:
the midnight shows.
we talked about the certain point of view. It's a huge theme in Star Wars, becoming a huger one all the time. And the book certainly has it. The book is based on certain point of view. In that idea that your youth and your culture shapes your point of view, I feel like all of our youths certainly contain Star Wars. So I wanted to ask you guys, what did having Star Wars as a part of your youth and culture, how does that change your perception of actual reality?
Well, that's a good question. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very good question.
It's heavy as hell.
Yeah, to me, I was always born, and I don't know, sometimes you don't understand about yourself. Like, you don't know if
Yeah.
you were born with it or if your parents taught you this, but I've always had this thing about injustice. Always. Like, it's been a very, very big deal for me. You know, I don't know if it's because of the upbringing, I don't know if it's because I came from a poor family or because I'm Latino. There's a number of reasons I could have developed this, and other people haven't, who came from my situation, same stuff, but for whatever reason I haven't. So, for me, Star Wars was always about that. It was like, before it got more like this, was more deep, more levels, it was always good and evil. It was always, we have to, justice. Yeah, you have to stop these people from hurting people like this. You have to stop this. They're subjugating people, you know, especially when you get to the end in Jedi. It's like, okay, this, finally, yes, it's done. And then you have the, where Vader finally, you know, tells him his son he loves him.
Yeah,
and tells
the
him he's
redemption,
sorry.
yeah.
The redemption. Exactly. All of that is so essential to me, and that's what I love about the 3 movies, is why, to me, it affected me, because I saw the first one when I was 8 years old, so, I mean, I'm that old. I saw it, and then, you know, Jedi in the theater, and then Empire Strikes Back as well. And for me, it was all about the progression of that. How are they going to find the justice that they need to find, because they're all on their journeys to get there.
Yeah.
Even Solo,
Yes.
for all his irreverence, even Solo is trying to find his place of where he belongs and the justice to
And
exist.
All he gives it one shot. He says, "Luke, may the Force be with you." Even
Yeah.
though it's a hokey old
Yeah.
religion,
Yeah.
like he still is like, you know what? This is important to him. I want him to let him know that I understand what he thinks is important.
Right.
Is important to me because we're friends now.
Yeah.
Plus the friendship angle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How about you?
I think ultimately, not to get too deep, it kind of taught me to always see good in people, like Luke did. Is no matter how far down somebody may be,
Nice.
Really, they're you can always find good in somebody, no matter what. And I try to. Some people say I'm a little bit too positive, a little bit too trusting, and to a fault sometimes. But that's something that I've had with me all my life. So
Cool.
I always try to see the good in people.
Awesome. Yeah. For me, I think it's just patience. Like just all of my various artistic pursuits. If I played drums in high school, I do comedy now, many different things. If I get too nervous, just thinking through like Luke's or Yoda's advice to Luke about the light side of the Force of like calm your mind, search your feelings, and you get that sense of like connecting to something more powerful, which I think a lot of different interpretations of. But for me, it's just sort of like calm your mind, patience. You start trusting yourself. And you can do things more smoothly than if you're angry and running at it,
Right.
And I think that's what I got from Star Wars. Beautiful. So that's our Lost Stars section. Please, if you haven't read the book,
Do it.
yes, do it.
Okay. I went Shia LaBeouf. You went the more logical way. But from there, we're actually going to be going to a new segment that we're going to be calling the Mind Probe. This is we've.
We should have told you, John.
Yeah. By the way, here comes Dr. Ball. But this is from our Facebook page. If you don't know, we do have a Facebook page. It's Jedi Alliance. Give us a search because these are questions from you, from the fans. And this is something that we're going to try to do as regularly as possible. Our first question coming from Eric Santiago. Do you think the Jedi characters of Ahsoka, Kanan, and Ezra will be killed off in Rebels? I like all three, but it would kind of sour the whole Last of the Jedi thing for Luke if they were alive during the original trilogy.
Ahsoka, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you want Ahsoka
so?
to die?
No, I don't want.
Oh, you don't want.
I
You
do
just think she should.
I think she will. Yes.
Yeah.
I think Rebels is setting that up
At Vader's
very
hand?
clearly. Yes. I think that's coming definitely this
Okay.
season. I spoke with one of the writers on Rebels at Comic-Con. Through a friend of mine. We were just at a bar, and we sat down. and We talked for half an hour and
Drank some jet juice and
drank our jet juice. And he said, I told him how much I enjoyed the darker turn in Rebels in the first season. He said, you just wait till the second season.
Okay.
It's going to get even darker. And so for me, that means,
Yeah.
and just from the new trailer that was released at New York Comic-Con, man, oh man, it just looks very,
Yeah.
very dark. So I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, Ahsoka, they're making her a very big part of it.
Yeah.
So I have no doubts that she's going to die.
Yeah, I don't
know about Ezra
want
Kanan.
that to happen.
Right, of
I
course
think
not.
it
Nobody
would be
wants
a
that to happen.
great tragedy, but I do think it makes sense for her. I think it's good for her character arc after everything she's been through in Clone
Yeah.
Wars and Rebels and everything she's still going to.
Yeah.
Kanan and Ezra are a little bit more of a problem.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Rebels has been so family friendly and it's not shying. We talked about this last week. It's not shying away from violence, but it's handling it very family friendly violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Clone Wars had so much like headshots and just
Yeah.
death. So,
Yep.
so this one is definitely got a little bit more of a Disney vibe to it. Definitely Disney's like, yo, let's chill on the killing. So I think if it were to happen, maybe not in Rebels. Maybe they do show up in Rogue One, and
Oh,
that's the
nice.
place where we get a chance to be like, nope, even they couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
And that could be something for all of the fans where either way they're like, oh, there's more Jedi, and there they go. So it can be several things, but I don't think if anything, Ahsoka makes the most sense during Rebels.
Yeah.
But for Kanan and Ezra, they have so much surrounding them, like is Kanan's Marvel series still going, or did that
Yeah.
end?
No, it's still going.
So they have a lot going for Kanan
Right.
as a property.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to ride Rebels out as long as they can.
Yeah.
And from there, we might get a new series after that.
Yeah.
But I don't. If they do get killed off, I don't think it'll be in Rebels.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a kind of purist, I do like Luke being the only one, so I feel like they should go away in some way.
Yeah.
I think you got death. The aftermath brought in that idea of the space outside of the galaxy
Yeah.
that is known,
Yeah.
which used to be in canon, so now it's back in canon.
Yeah.
So I would also be fine with Kanan and Ezra deciding,
Let's
this
get
galaxy,
the
let's try
hell
another
outta
galaxy.
here.
I think Kanan will stop. Because Kanan was never a full Jedi anyway, because his training was stopped so early from the attacks, if you read the comic book series.
Yeah.
But I think he will eventually stop. I think Ezra might turn.
Ooh,
That's
nice.
That's my feeling, and I've always felt this from the beginning. There's something about his anger, something about his parents. There's certainly possibilities that he could turn. It would be the greatest like a
That'd be a great swerve.
It would be one of the swerves ever in the history of this property, because we love him so much, and then we could see what we missed out on in the prequels, a logical turn
Right,
to
where
the
we didn't
dark
get to
side.
spend as much time with Anakin
believably
immediately
seeing-
post-turn.
Right, exactly, and
Wrestling with it.
Yeah, and I think that would be fascinating to watch with Ezra, because he has already shown the emotional, reactions to things, to want to fight, to want to kill.
Yeah.
and so.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to our next question. This is even more serious. This is from Everett Higbee.
This kept me up.
What do you think blue milk tastes like?
Even saying it.
Everett says, not a plot point, but it is damn important to me. And it's important to us too,
listen
Everett.
to me.
It
You
really
tell
is.
me what blue milk tastes like.
All right, let's do a quick round robin on this one. Which one do you think? What do you think blue milk tastes like? Mark?
I think I would like to think it tastes like a form of milk, really, like goat's milk would, or anything. I don't think it'll taste weird. If it has milk in the title, then it's got to taste like milk. I don't think the blue is anything indicative of taste.
John, what do you think blue milk tastes like?
Liquid M&Ms. It tastes like liquid M&Ms.
Yeah, I was thinking like really old milk that has just soaked up blueberry cereal from like 1957.
Cereal milk, dig it.
Just really like chalky. Like
Pepto-Bismol?
I taste fruit, but it is not fruit of natural.
Yeah, right.
It's like somebody dropped a Tums in there.
unnatural Sith fruit.
Like some of those protein drinks.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Should we go on to the next question?
Yeah. John Gosson asks, I wonder if Obi-Wan's quote about who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him, came about after he spent decades contemplating his lifelong service to a blind and ineffective Jedi Council.
So there's some opinion inherent in John's question, which is very understandable. Yeah. John, do you have thoughts on that one?
I would think that would make sense. I would agree with him. I mean, there's a reason he went and became a hermit for so long on Tatooine and did his thing protecting Luke. But that makes sense, right? We saw how ineffective they've been. It's a legitimate judgment to make on this council, on this Jedi Council, that they were ineffective and blind, and let things. They were too caught up in the red tape.
They were literally blinded by the dark side.
Yeah, blinded by the dark side, or their own ideas of what should and shouldn't happen, and they got into these situations. So yeah, that would make sense. Plus, it's just a good idea to have in your head.
Yeah, who's more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Always take that moment to think before you follow somebody. Are you going to be a fool following this fool?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, it's like the message of take responsibility for your own actions, but it's said in that sort of teacher way of like, I'm not going to hand you the answer. I'm going to ask you the question, and you can have the answer pop into your head.
Right.
What do you think about this one, Mark?
You know what? I would like to think that he had several. He was as a hermit. He definitely had to sit there and meditate and contemplate. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple times where he just went, "God, I was so stupid," and then he just goes right back into it, like, "Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that." He.
That's part of getting older.
Yeah,
right? That's part of getting older.
It's like, what am I doing? I'm in a cave. I don't even know if those kids are still alive. Damn it. And then finally seeing Luke, like, oh, cool, he's still around. Cool, fantastic.
Yeah, I think there's probably one or two things where he raised concerns instead of I should have said what I meant more clearly. Like I like Obi-Wan because he is not a rogue Jedi. He follows his duty. He follows his orders, but he questions. Yeah. And I want to think that he sat there and said there are a couple choices that I should have just pushed a little harder on.
Yeah, like the best characters in any media, he's a work in progress, and that's why we love him, because we're works in progress as we go through life, and that's what we enjoy about him.
Yeah, awesome.
Ever evolving.
Okay, so our last question we'll do quickly, which I think we can. Hannah Francis asks, the top 10 Star Wars drinking game rules.
Yeah.
Now, my interpretation of this is anytime you have drinking game rules, it is designed to be the most harsh, the most cruel and punishing.
It'll get you drunk.
It will get you beyond drunk. It will get you hospitalized, right?
I think we've got a lot of the same ones.
Yeah,
We've got some written down.
So do you have some, John?
I would say every time you hear the sound of a lightsaber, you drink.
Ooh, nice.
I was going to say every time one pops up.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I'll mark them. We got a lightsaber noise.
Definitely bad feeling.
I got a bad feeling about this for sure.
Bad feeling.
I got arm removals.
Yeah, that'll work.
Limb removal.
That'll work.
Arm removal of any kind. Here's a strange one. Anytime it sounds like a droid or a creature is not speaking English, but they might be swearing.
Aggressive droid noises.
Aggressive droid noises.
Right.
Ichuta.
Well, Jawas count. I would say
who
one
knows
to,
what poutine means?
Seriously. One that would finish your drink is anytime you hear the Wilhelm scream.
Okay.
And that was one where you
nice.
finish as opposed to take a sip.
You have to drink the whole thing on the
Nice.
Wilhelm scream. Nice.
How about every time C-3PO stumbles with his man who speaks 260 languages but still has that kind of that kind of stutter? Just drink every time he stutters.
Okay, so a C-3PO
droid
sort
speech.
of emotional stutter. Fair enough.
From the booth, we got anytime a stormtrooper misses, if you want to be drunk in 5
Good
minutes.
gosh, no.
Oh, yeah, but then, they hit a couple times. I've been thinking about this.
He said stun.
You don't get the drink when they shoot Leia in the shoulder.
Joseph Scrimshaw is the biggest defender of any issues you have about Star Wars.
About Stormtrooper
It's
shooting.
the best.
It's a good
Or
one.
Stormtrooper,
It's a
yeah.
very, very good one.
Anytime they make contact, you finish your drink.
I was going to say anytime you hear the word destiny.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
We got room for 2 more. You guys got anything else? I got some more. If you got anything there, John?
No, I don't actually. I mean, I was thinking something with Han and Leia. Every time you think, just kiss already, take a drink. Because they're like so. But I mean, I'm open to better ones. I'm open
bickering?
to better ones. Yeah, every time they bicker, you just
Bickering, but then that would be one of those drinking rules where you just kind of don't stop drinking.
Yeah. Well, so is a stormtrooper.
So what about
Zing! The joke
explosion?
hit. An explosion. Okay,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
nice.
That's good.
That's
So you got
nice.
a couple. That one could be like take a shot or finish your drink or
Okay,
something like
and
that.
I'll offer this last one that I think is one of the most brutal. That you have to be doing this with other people, which is smart for a drinking game because you shouldn't be alone.
no, you should
That's
not.
sad. You have to take a drink every time someone else in the room says the line along with the movie.
Oh my lord!
And
And you have to
death.
take it with that person, or that person is exempt.
That person is exempt. They're
Oh,
busy
that'd be a
being
battle.
enthralled.
That'd be a battle.
You need more than 2 bottles. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I like the one you had in there for the wipe transition.
Oh yeah, white transition.
Every time it's a smooth wipe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who sent us questions
Yes,
on our
those
Facebook
are
page.
yeah.
If you would
all
like
sorts of great questions.
If you would like to be a member, a member, if you would like to join us in the Mind Probe, go ahead and follow us on Facebook. That is at Jedi Alliance. Send us a question, and you may be a part of the next show on Mind Probe. But from there, we go to Duel of the Fates.
Yay! We danced a little bit.
Gotta do the thing.
Sorry.
Yes, the thing. Doing the thing.
I always say sorry before I dance too, John.
I apologize. All right, so this last week's question was, if there are any new Force powers in The Force Awakens, what would you like to see? There were a lot of people, well, a few jokes for keeping it classic, just kind of Force choke sort of a thing, and somebody brought up an idea for Force healing.
Yeah,
so
that was really
using
cool.
the Force to help somebody as opposed to kill, sort of like the light side's version of Force choke.
Yeah. It was really
And
cool.
thank you to Steve Bennett, who left us this comment. I would like to see a new move called Force Quake, where a powerful Force user places their palm down on the ground and uses the Force to send out an earthquake-like crack in the ground so that his enemies fall into.
Very anime.
Nice.
I love it.
Smiley face.
Just to be clear, that's what
That
Steve
was there. The
wrote.
smiley face was
Nice
there. We got it.
smiley face.
Right there, drawing it.
Yeah, so thank you guys for those as well. This week's Duel of the Fates question, which we'll post on Facebook tomorrow, but we will answer ourselves now. Who would win in a fight, Grand Moff Tarkin or Admiral Akbar? Two brutal tacticians in an actual physical fight.
Wow.
But I mean, thinking about it, especially after reading Lost Stars, you see the training that the Empire has to go to, that all of the high commanders have to go to, and Sienna goes through a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and the higher you get, the less you have to like keep training yourself.
Right.
And I have a feeling Tarkin wouldn't necessarily be as up to date as Sienna would be, but I think that we've got two just very good hand-to-hand combat dudes for different reasons. Like Tarkin's very, very by the books and matter of fact and actual art, where Akbar's got that Mon Calamari fighting style, and I honestly can't think. It comes down to favoritism.
Okay.
For me.
So do you have a vote or you can't?
I'm still thinking. So come
Okay.
on back.
All
to me.
right.
Well, here's what I would say. Akbar is my second favorite character in the
Okay.
entire history of Star Wars. I love him to death. I still think there should be more done with him. My only concern is there's more targets on the head to hit. There's a bigger head. The eyes, I mean, you can do some real damage.
Yeah.
However, it depends on when they're fighting.
Exactly.
If they're older, then I agree with what he's saying. Tarkin hasn't had a lot of training, and whereas I think the rebels are more hungrier, and so they're constantly training themselves, so they're ready to fight at any moment because the Empire can pop out at any moment. So I think Akbar would absolutely take down Tarkin, but you would think Tarkin's going to win really most of the fight until Akbar finally takes care of it, because Tarkin's going to be dirty.
This is what clinched it for me after thinking about it for 24 minutes straight. I think Akbar's got slapping hands.
Oh, that's right. Very good.
And I think a big, wet, powerful slap, that's disorienting to Tarkin, who's rigid and thinks, this is the way a fight is done. I have my fisticuffs down, and then whap!
But just like old
Big
timey
old
boxing,
slap.
like, what for are you? Like, no.
Stop it.
But I think I'd hand it to the Mon Calamari.
Yeah.
I'm going with Akbar.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, fans, we'll see if it's a clean sweep for Admiral Akbar out there.
Because Tarkin has no force power, right?
Nope.
No, right?
So he's just an Imperial who
Slap hands.
may not comes
Absolutely.
down to slap hands. Perfect. This was fun. This is a lot of fun. We should do it again sometime. Same
Absolutely.
time next week.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
But John, where can the folks find you on the interweb?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Rocha Says, and then I talk about all the shows that I host on there, so that you can listen or watch or follow if you feel like it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw. My social media is at Joseph Scrimshaw. I've got one thing to plug. I've got a show coming up. If you're in Los Angeles, I am doing a show called Comedy Dreamtime, where I ask people what sort of fun character or role they always want to play, and then I write a sketch for them. This week I've got Josh A. Kagan, who is the screenwriter of The Duff and a very, very funny man. We're going to be doing a Twilight Zone parody. It's going to be all horror themed, so check that out. There's info on my website at josephscrimshaw.com.
Too spooky. I am the internet Soapbox Mark. You can find me on Twitter at Soapbox Mark. Here at Popcorn Talk, doing video game movie anatomy. Last week we did Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Our analysis might surprise you. And this next week, on the 19th, we're going to be doing Halo Forward Unto Dawn. We're getting some folks from Rooster Teeth in to talk about one of the few good video game properties on the screen. So follow me on Soapbox Mark for all of that, as well as John Rocha and I did a podcast called The Gimmick on the Wrestling Viewpoint Network. If you're a wrestling fan, take a listen to that. It was a lot of fun, and we should do it again.
I would love to do that again.
Nice.
Sounds great.
If Admiral Akbar is involved in wrestling at any point, bring me on. Thank you. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can watch the show on YouTube by subscribing to youtube.com/Popcorn Talk Network. Catch the Jedi Alliance on iTunes, and please rate and review. You can also visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all the past episodes of Jedi Alliance to see which other unlikely combatants would beat each other in a physical fight. Links are there on popcorntalknetwork.com to both iTunes and YouTube versions of the show. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for all the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died to bring us this information.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.